Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I want to believe.
And I'm Gary, and today we're going to review and discuss The X-Files, the movie, Fight the Future, which came out in 1998 from writer Chris Carter and director Rob Bowman. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis for The X-Files?
Well, the story follows special agents Mulder and Scully, played by David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson. They have been removed from investigating the X-Files, which the FBI consider the unexplained files that they are unable to investigate. They find themselves brought in to investigate an explosion at a building which has supposedly killed 4 firemen and a small boy. When Mulder and Scully start to investigate deeper, they realise that there is a whole government conspiracy going on involving an alien virus from 35,000 BC and the government's attempt to try to create an antivirus and to save the future.
X-Files has been around since 1993 and at this point was coming to the end of season 5 in preparation for season 6.
Yeah.
The studio was like, okay, it is time for a feature movie. You know, the fan base and the popularity of X-Files has ballooned to the point where David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson are TV gods.
Yeah.
You know, they are two of the most iconic characters in television. And so a film was put forward. Chris Carter wanted to do a standalone mythology film, or a standalone film that didn't include the mythology from the show.
Right, okay.
It would kind of be an extended episode. But the studio was like, no. We need you to include all those elements and then tie it up so to include moments from season 5 to lead into season 6. And Chris Carter said that this was perhaps the most daunting writing task that he had ever had, because he didn't want to tie it into the show, you know, have its connections, but he wanted it to be its own thing and to be part of, you know, maybe a continuing series of films which are just massive budgeted episodes.
Yeah.
Which was not the case.
I remember, you know, watching the X-Files back in the day. I mean, it was a big fucking thing. You were either watching X-Files or you weren't. And if you weren't, then you just were kind of shunned to the side. Everybody was a Scully fan. You know, everybody loved the kind of moody, spooky Mulder that David Duchovny pulled across. And I remember, I think it was at the end of season 1, they went into the unopened file, which was like a 3-episode story arc. And it actually, you know, came to about an hour and a half extended episode. They would do this a couple more times in the further seasons with 82517 and Toombs and the, you know, Dwayne Barry and the kidnapper of Scully. And so fans, including myself, were sat there going, oh, wouldn't it be great if they made a film? Wouldn't it be great if they put them on the big screen? And I remember back in the 90s, people said that a lot for a lot of things. You know, Resident Evil was one of those ones as well. But I always came to believe that you couldn't transfer X-Files to the big screen without making some changes. And those changes you had to be careful of because you could easily lose your fan base.
Well, the studio really wanted to broaden the appeal of X-Files to bring in new viewers, to, you know, enlighten those that are not watching the show, and also, if they were to watch this film, be able to understand the last 5 years of this show's history, and be brought up to speed and be taken along for this ride.
Well, the film does that very well. It sets it up right from the start. You know, you've got this snowy landscape and you get that small text that you always recognize with X-Files coming up in the corner saying North Texas, 35,000 BC, and you're just like, oh, okay, so we're in the past now. And we watch these 2 cavemen seeking shelter. I believe they're seeking shelter. There's only these 2 guys. You don't hear, they don't say what they're doing. They enter into this cave and they come across a couple other cavemen who are frozen in ice, and then they're attacked by this vicious fucking creature when one of them is killed off and the other caveman manages to kill the alien, but then we notice this black oily substance coming out of the alien and into the caveman. Now, as fans of the show, you would recognize this substance as the kind of black oil alien goo that had appeared in maybe season 4, season 5, and you'd always wanted to know more. But before you know anything more, it skips to the future, present day North Texas, and we watch Lucas Black fall into a hole. The very hole which would lead into the cave, and we watch him get taken over by the black oil.
I think the effect of the worms moving up his skin
Yes.
actually worked really well.
I always liked the stuff going into his eyes. I always loved that from the show as well. You always knew something was not right when the person had black eyes. And then the firemen all turn up and they get in there. And then all of a sudden the government's there and they start taking over. And then a week later we're in Washington, I think it is. And we're with Mulder and Scully investigating a bomb threat. Now, this film is easy to follow if you're an X-Files fan. But at the same time, there's a few bits that just kind of throw me off.
Okay.
Like this beginning, for example. You know, there's been a phone call in to say that there's a bomb in a building. So the FBI have all raced to this building to investigate it, and we see Terry O'Quinn leading these group of FBI agents, and he's telling these guys, look, there must be something here, go out and find it. So they go off, and then he looks across at another building, and he sees a figure over there, and it turns out to be Scully, who's looking for Mulder. And Scully talks to Mulder and says, you know, why are we here? The threat's coming from that address over there. And Mulder's like, well, you know, he's doing his normal thinking outside the box, not going by the conventional terms. He's like, well, you know, I just have this hunch.
He always has those hunches.
And
he's never wrong.
No. And I'm like, okay, right, yeah. I've seen this film, you know, a couple of times, so I know what's going to happen. But, you know, for new viewers, you're like, okay, so he's playing a hunch, and he's got Scully there, and he says, why are we up on this goddamn roof? It's so hot. Let's just go downstairs. We'll hook up with the other guys. We'll get a drink.
And that's one of my favourite moments here, straight away, is we're being reintroduced to these characters, where Scully goes to open the door, and she steps back and looks at him and goes, the door's locked, and now what are we going to do?
I had you.
Oh, you didn't?
Oh, yeah. I had you big time.
You had nothing. Come on, I saw you jiggle the handle.
She's like, I had you.
Yeah.
You were worried for a moment. And he's just like, did you see my worried face?
Yeah.
Look, this is my worried face.
That's brilliant.
And I'm like, did he change his face? I'm like, no, that is Mulder face. That's his shocked, surprised, orgasm, happy face, all rolled into one. You know, it doesn't change. But that's what we like Mulder, you know,
Yes.
his dry delivery, yet he just oozes charisma. So, and just enjoying their interplay right there. Just goes, okay, I like these two characters. Let's follow them on.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same with Scully. As soon as Scully turned up on screen, I was like, wow. Boom, girl. There's just something about Gillian Anderson, her FBI agent look. You know, she's just, you know, I'll get more into that later.
I like Gillian Anderson again in Hannibal and American Gods.
Yeah.
You know, she always plays interesting characters. Very un-Scully characters as well.
Yes. But it's the fact that Mulder then says to her, like, oh, I'll go get a drink. And just, you know, goes off to the vending machine and can't get it to work. And then realizes, oh, it's got a bomb inside. I'm like, well, that's lucky. It's a good thing you played that hunch, Mulder. That you not only played the hunch that the building they're investigating is the wrong one, but you also managed to find the room with the bomb. Wow, that was really good. But he contacts Scully, and Scully contacts Terry O'Quinn, and they get everybody into there to look at this bomb, and they've got, like, I don't know, 30 seconds to get out or 30 seconds to disarm it and get everybody out the building. And then we just watch Terry O'Quinn kind of sit in front of the bomb. Now, as an X-Files fan, you realise that there must be something up with him. He must be working for somebody who has told him, just sit there and look at this bomb. But within the first 10, 15 minutes of the movie, I'm just like, I know the investigation's going to come up, but it just seems too simple at the start. You know, Mulder having the hunch, finding the right building and the right bomb, and then watching his, I want to say close friend. Him and Terry O'Quinn seem to know each other. They seem to have a background history. I can't remember if they've seen each other in previous episodes in the seasons leading up to this movie. But he leaves him alone, and Mulder's just like, I know something's wrong. And Scully's like, there is no time! We've got to go!
Something's not right.
Mulder, get in the car! There's no time!
And here you can see why this film version of The X-Files has a bigger budget with the amazing explosion.
Yeah.
You know, the initial blast, watching the cars get knocked backwards, the car they're in get flung in the blast, and then just looking at the wreckage of that building. I was like, wow, that's really, really good.
Yeah, they definitely went OTT with the scale. They were like, okay, we know the scale that we can do it with the show. Let's boost it up to fucking 12. Let's just boost up to 12. But Mulder and Scully are then pulled in front of an investigation board because the FBI are investigating the fact that they could have done more, or they could have been more well prepared because, you know, this building has been destroyed. There's, what's it Skinner says? It's like $45 million worth of damage, and somebody must be held accountable.
It's the fact that Mulder and Scully broke protocol by going into the other building. And I'm just like, but these guys saved lives. Like, they managed to evacuate the whole building.
Yeah, well, I realised this, that obviously it was, right at the start, it's a conspiracy against the FBI to keep them nailed down. If Mulder had not gone over to that building, the bomb would have still gone off. Loads of people would have been killed, and the FBI would have still been held accountable because you were in the wrong fucking building.
Yeah.
Well, you're the bad guys. But Mulder and Scully found it, and now it's like, you were in the wrong fucking building. You're the bad guys.
So it's then explained to Mulder and Scully that there were 3 people that they did not evacuate from that building. 2 firemen and a small boy.
Yeah.
And straight away you're like,
That's what we heard at the beginning. And that's the thing. You start to realize that there's conspiracies, inside dreams, inside other things. And Mulder is just like biting at the bit, like, I need to investigate this. I need to find out. And it's funny. I don't want to sound negative because I love the X-Files. And I love Gillian Anderson as well, Scully, you know, especially when she comes out the meeting. I love her when she comes out the meetings and all you can really see are those ankles. She's got hell of a sexy ankles. Just, you see her in that suit and you're like, oh, look at those ankles, girl. Really get those
calm
ankles.
down, Iain.
Sorry. Anyway, I get described. It's Scully's view of Mulder, like, Mulder, what are we doing? Why are we here? What is this, all this? And you're like, Scully, you've gone through 5 years of investigating the paranormal. You've seen things that just should never exist. Why are you questioning him?
She's always the skeptic, you know? It was one of those things where, like, it's, you know, we got to return back to the status quo for the next episode. So that anything that Scully would have learned to make her question that there are things beyond science and medicine that she can't explain. And then the very next week, she's like, no, can't believe it. No.
I mean, season 3, she was fucking abducted. You know, abducted for like 3 episodes, comes back, finds little plants inside her. She's seen people stretching bones and all this other crazy shit. Yet in the film, she looks at Mulder and goes, well, maybe we shouldn't investigate it, Mulder. Maybe we should actually be separated and sent away on our own. And Mulder's like, well, what would I do?
You're quitting.
Maybe you should ask yourself if your heart's still in it, too.
Mulder takes a massive beating inside the meeting and ends up at a bar and is just drinking his sorrows away. He notices that Martin Landau, who plays Dr. Alvin Kurtzweil, is just watching him. And I did laugh at this point when Mulder goes to take a piss and the toilet's out of order. And so he goes outside, finds a nice poster of Independence Day and takes a piss on it.
You know why that is? Because Chris Carter thought that Independence Day was one of the worst fucking movies he had ever seen. And he hates it. So He decided to have some characters piss all over it. Literally.
It's brilliant. And this is where Dr. Kurtzweil would speak to Mulder. Martin Landau, amazing actor.
Yeah, you have to tip my hat to Martin Landau as
recently passed away. I remember him playing majorly Bela Lugosi in Ed Wood. Pull the string! He's such an amazing actor. And he's got this look in this movie, the kind of aged old doctor, who's been involved in all the conspiracies for 50 odd years, but now has realized that he kind of doesn't want to do it anymore and wants to tell the truth. And so the first person he goes to is Mulder, and I'm like, well, that's lucky. You happen to find the one guy who's probably got most of the expertise to find all this stuff out. But Mulder doesn't want to buy it. Even when Dr. Kurtzweil brings in his father, brings in the stuff about Mulder's sister and all the stuff Mulder's been doing for like the last 5 seasons, Mulder's just like, it's too easy. Mm-hmm. It's too easy to get this information. But I'm going to follow it up anyway. And so he goes and wakes Scully up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And there's that little awkward thing where she's like, what are you doing here? Are you drunk? And he's like, I was drunk till about 20 minutes ago. And you think, does she think he's just here for a quickie? Because that's not Mulder's style. Mulder doesn't do that. Mulder will wake you up and say, come on, we've got to go investigate this thing. They go to a military hospital. Bethesda. I didn't realize Bethesda made games and hospitals.
No, me neither.
And they get past the guard to go down into the basement to look at these dead bodies. And we've already cut back to the burial site where I didn't realize this until obviously Gary told me, but Dale from The Walking Dead is investigating this cave site, and they've come across one of the other firemen who's still alive, and the black oil is inside him gestating an alien creature like the one that we saw at the very beginning of the movie. Already this movie is 10 times better than Prometheus.
The origin of the black goo finally explained.
Yeah. It wasn't the engineers. It was the American governments and the governments all around the world have been holding this all together. Mulder and Scully come across the other bodies from the bombing of the building, and Scully reads out the file. Oh, well, yeah, he's been damaged by debris and fire and explosions, and Mulder kind of lists up the body bag and goes, really?
It doesn't look like no burn victim to me.
Yeah, it doesn't. Scully comes around and realizes everything's jelly. Oh,
it's pretty gross.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, the special effects in this film are also really good. One of the names stands out to me, and that's Alec Gillis.
Yeah.
Who, of course, would work on a lot of the Alien films.
I also looked up as well, it was Tom Woodruff Jr. who played the alien creature, and I'm like, I know you. Leaving Scully in the morgue to investigate the body and perform an autopsy, Mulder goes to find Kurtzweil at his home and finds out that Kurtzweil has actually been distributing porn of little kids. Obviously, as an X-Files fan, you know this is just one big fucking cover-up and the government is trying to keep Kurtzweil down. And Kurtzweil says to him, oh, what is it this time? Am I beating on a patient? Am I distributing sexual imagery?
Oh, what is it this time? Kiddie porn again? Sexual battery of a patient?
They want to discredit you for what?
Because I'm a dangerous man, because I know too much about the truth.
Now that end of the world apocalyptic garbage, you right?
You know my work?
And you're like, it's not the first time you've been burned by the government. And the thing with this film is, like we said, it is just a very extended episode because you just jump from place to place. It's the fact that, Mulder's at this morgue, then he's at Kurtzweil's apartment, then he's ringing Scully and saying, I'm getting you a ticket to Dallas, Texas, make sure you're on the flight. And Scully's like, but I've got a fucking meeting at like 11 o'clock tomorrow. And he's like, no, come on.
I'll get you back in time.
We'll get you back in time. I'm like, what the fuck are you? You're just an FBI agent. Your credit card must be maxed out to fuck. But they head to Texas to investigate the evidence from the bombing. because they're obviously still trying to investigate why these bodies were inside the building. And Kurtzweil has already given Mulder hints to say, look, inside that building there was a kind of a laboratory to fighting against viruses, but it was kept hidden, and these bodies were shipped there, but then the bodies were destroyed in the bomb to keep whatever was in there hidden. And so, like I said, it goes back to the bomb where I'm like, but somebody called that in. We get told that that's what they got. They got a call in. So the government aren't doing very well of covering this stuff up, because you've got people going around with all loose information, giving it to Mulder, who's the one person you should not give government information to. We're going to set off this bomb. We best phone the FBI first so that they can take the heat when it all kicks off. What, the very same FBI group that Mulder works for? Yeah, don't worry. He's not going to get any hunches. Of course he is. And then when they turn up at this place, the guy they're talking to, he says, oh yeah, we found some bone fragments, but they were from an archaeological dig. Oh, let my colleague here, Scully, look into it. And it's the look that she gets from her face, like, and Mulder's like, okay, where did you find these bones? They end up going to the cave site, which has been covered over at this point, because Dale has been allowing the alien to gestate inside the last fireman, and they were hoping to move the creature to look into it. When Dale gets down to the body, he realizes that the creature has escaped. Still better than Prometheus. We're already still better than Prometheus. The creature rips him to fuck. And he manages to inject it with the weak antivirus that the government have been trying to build up over the last 50 years since they first came across the black oil.
Which is enough time for him to... Because I thought he was dead at this point, but the alien kind of retreats away to recover.
Yeah.
And so Dale starts climbing up the ladder. And I just remember the horrific image of, the other scientists putting the lid on.
Yes.
It's like, sorry, you're not leaving.
Yeah.
It's just his horror as he realizes the lights go out and he just sits down there, and then the alien just takes him.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Mulder and Scully get there, and the government have cleared everything out, laid down fresh
concreted
grass.
The whole area.
Yeah, concrete the whole area, fresh grass on top of it, and a brand new playset, and have possibly paid off everybody in this town to keep quiet. You never once see Lucas Black's parents. Now, have they been paid off, or have they been killed off to keep it quiet?
Bit of both.
You never know. All we know is that this little boy was lost at the beginning, and now he's like fully fucking dead, and nobody's asking any questions.
Well, we do then also get introduced to X-Files' mainstay antagonist, the Smoking Man.
Yes.
And he's been an enigma pretty much throughout the X-Files until, the conclusion of his story.
Yeah.
But the effects of his manipulation on the characters and events throughout the show and in this film are very far-reaching. And he's a great villain.
Yes.
He doesn't have to say very much. He just needs to be silhouetted in the background, smoking.
So iconic.
Definitely.
He's just there. And it's the way he... later on in the seasons, you would find out that the cigarettes that he's smoking are keeping back part of the virus that he's already still got in his body. So he knows he's dying, but he'd rather die of cancer preventing this thing than allow this thing to take over him. But like I said, it's the fact that they've laid the grass on top, they put the park on top of it, Mulder and Scully are investigating, and all I'm thinking is, so the alien is still in there?
Buried now, yeah.
Yeah. It's in the ground, though.
It's not getting out.
Can you give me that fucking guarantee? Really? I mean, I would have... Yes, okay, it would have probably brought a lot of attention if you dropped a napalm bomb down there to wipe it out or whatever. But it just seems really lazy of the government to go, Right, this thing's escaped. What should we do with it? Just put a plastic lid on top of it and concrete it. Are you sure the thing that... Nah, it doesn't understand concrete. It can't escape. But Mulder and Scully then speak to a few of the local boys who we saw at the beginning. And the boys say, well, you know, these big white tankers, they went that way. And so they jump into their car. Mulder and Scully jump into the car and they chase after him. And there's an awesome little scene where they're sat at the crossroads. And he's like, should we go left? Should we go right? Fuck it, I'm just going forward. And he goes forward. And he says to Scully, he's like, have I ever been wrong? And she just kind of shoots him that look.
5 years together, Scully. How many times have I been wrong? Never. Not driving, anyway.
And he's like, well, I've never been wrong driving. But it comes up to another cool scene where they come to a dead end at night. And Scully is so fucking annoyed. You can tell as soon as she gets out of the car and slams the door, she's so annoyed. Because she's got to get to this place and she's got to be in for this meeting. And they're in the middle of nowhere. And Mulder, you're just dragging me out to here. And you're chasing these things just for yourself. And at that moment, a fucking train goes past with the tankers on board. The very tankers they're looking for. And Scully has this, shit face on. She just look, it's the way she just kind of looks at Mulder as well, like, you're loving this fucking, ain't you? He's like, yeah, come on.
So the chase is on as they chase after the train, which comes to another secret military compound.
It's just a way of, who would grow corn out here? And I'm like, well, nobody would. This is definitely a government secret installation. But, you know, Scully, you're still the skeptic.
This is weird, Mulder.
Very weird.
Any thoughts as to why anybody would be growing corn in the middle of the desert?
Well, those could be giant Jiffy Pop poppers.
You know, Mulder's, like I said, he's loving every fucking minute of this because everything is just, it's coming up Mulder. All the times they called me spooky and stuck me in the basement and told me I'm insane. Here I am in this secret installation. And I'm like, yeah, we've been here before, Mulder. Like 5 seasons worth. You know, like over fucking 300 episodes or whatever. This is not going to end well for you because they managed to get inside the place. And it's a brilliant set. I've got to admit, it's really, really brilliant set with the fact that it's just, I mean, Scully thinks it's a ventilation system over an underground building. And you can hear this buzzing noise. And Mulder and Scully are trying to figure out what it is. And then all of a sudden, the vents in the ceiling open up. And then all the vents in the ground open up. And shitload of bees come flying out. And they have to escape. Well, we'd later find out that these bees have been genetically modified to carry the virus around the world because the governments of the world... Now stay with me because, like I said, this is where I get confused. The governments of the world have been working with aliens since they crashed in Roswell to develop this antivirus against this alien virus, which the aliens want to use to take over the world. The governments have been secretly for 50 years trying to create a virus because I can only imagine that if everybody knew about this, the aliens would find out and kick our asses Independence Day style. But then I don't understand the bees. Why the government have created the bees to carry the virus.
Because they're a great carrier for the virus. They can fly. They're airborne. They can go wherever and sting everyone and turn them into, you know, drones for this alien.
But the government's making the antivirus. Now,
Yeah, the government's making an antivirus for its key personnel so that all of those that are part of the conspiracy can stay alive. You know, they're just in for self-preservation at this point.
Right, okay. But they've got the virus from the aliens that crashed in Roswell and they've been developing it over 50 years.
Well, they've been developing a vaccine
for it. But the virus that we were shown at the beginning of the film is the same virus that they have got from Roswell, but because it's being held inside a cave with different temperatures, it's mutated.
Yeah.
Which now, if you get taken over by this virus, it gestates one of these alien creatures inside you, and now the government's obviously realised that their antivirus only works for this virus that they've got and not the virus that can gestate aliens inside you and turn you into weird.
I was under the impression it was the same virus.
Well, the elders say when the well-manicured man turns up at the meeting in London, one of the elders turns to him and says, the virus has mutated.
The virus has mutated.
Into what? A new extraterrestrial biological entity.
And so they are shocked because their antivirus is very weak and only works if you get it into the person infected with the virus within 96 hours, which is obviously leading on to Mulder trying to rescue Scully later on in the film.
Yeah.
But like I said, I just sit there and I'm like, so what is the great scale plan of the aliens? The aliens want to take over the Earth. And they want to either turn us into mindless drones,
well,
or mutate us into these aliens.
Well, basically, yeah, we're just cattle. We're just to be implanted with the goo, which will then form an alien inside you, which will burst out. And
right.
So it's basically just a way of repopulating the Earth with this alien race.
But that's only the mutated one. The one that they got from Roswell only turns you into a mindless drone.
Well, we never see that.
In the series you did a couple of times. There was the stuff at Tunguska. There was stuff with Alex Krycek. It only appeared a few times, and this is why with the film, keeping the story on the government kind of weakens the whole governmental conspiracy, because you start to pick plot holes at it and go, that doesn't work. Where for me, the X-Files, the main core for the X-Files was like the monster of the week episodic adventures where they would go to different places to investigate different things. Stuff that... Because that's what I mean. We've watched X-Files for 5 seasons. These aliens are coming and wanting to take over the world. But why would you want to do that? There are people who can stretch bones and can eat livers. We're pretty fucked up people down here. You don't want to fuck with us. There are weird bugs in forests that cocoon people and drain them of all their blood. There are other aliens that make elephants invisible. It's just a lot going on. Mulder and Scully would return back to Washington for Scully to finally make her meeting. And while she's in the meeting, we notice that one of the bees has gotten underneath her coat.
I thought that's the most ridiculous part of the entire film. That I just cannot believe it.
That bee sat there all the way back to Washington.
Yeah, so over the entire night and then all morning, she gets into the meeting, we see the bee, and the bee hides again for the rest of the day. And I'm like, how long?
Is it? But like we said, they've been genetically modified to carry this virus. Do you think they're smarter? And it's like I've got to stay quiet so I can find her and sting her at a really inappropriate moment, like when she's about to kiss her partner. Oh, for like fucking God knows how many years in the X-Files, everybody wanted Mulder and Scully to get together. Their chemistry worked so well. The relationship between Duchovny and Anderson worked so well. You just kind of wanted them to get together. You wanted them to be happy. And so in the film, just as they're about to kiss, just as Mulder is kind of in his own way told Scully that he loves her and needs her in his life, they're just about to kiss and bang, she gets stung by the bee. And you're like, fuck, okay. She's going into anaphylactic shock. The ambulance turns up, and Mulder, in all of his wisdom, realizes at the very last moment that these guys work for the government.
And then he gets shot in the head.
Well, grazed.
Well, that's how it would turn out to be.
Yeah, because at that point, when he's shot and he falls on the floor, that's where I would say that's where that episode would have ended. Coming into the next episode for the series. But yeah, he's shot and he wakes up in his hospital room surrounded by the lone gunmen, who are only in it for brief.
They have about as much time in this as they would maybe a standard episode.
Yeah, and they probably make more of an impact in this than they did their own TV series. But Skinner comes in as well and explains to Mulder that you can't go. You don't know where Scully is. And Mulder's just like, oh, I'm gonna go find out. I've got a few leads. And he manages to escape out of the hospital. And this is where he would come across the well-manicured man again, played by John Neville. Brilliant actor. Played one of my most favourite characters of all time, Baron Munchausen in The Adventures of. And he basically just fucking, fills in all the gaps for you, from the TV series to the film as well, explaining to Mulder that, the antivirus, the abductions, the cloning techniques, all of this have been put in place to avoid this alien invasion, this virus that they've got. But now they've come across this new mutated virus, which has got them worried. And if you want to find your partner, you need to get to these coordinates and inject her with this antivirus within 96 hours. And Mulder's just like, well, what are you going to do? And so he shoots his driver and he says, just go, because my life is at end, because I've told you all this, but I need to protect my children, my grandchildren. And he kills himself in a car bomb. And then Mulder is in the Antarctic. And lo and behold, comes across another military secret installation.
They're popping up everywhere.
They're just everywhere. And like I said, I just get confused again, because Mulder falls through a hole in the ice and lands into what I can only describe as an alien craft.
Well, yeah.
Now the government or the cigarette smoking man has his own installation on top of this alien craft and has his own team there. Now I use the Thing as a reference because this ship is buried underneath the ice, so it must have crash landed thousands of years ago and has just been sat there all this time. As Mulder is investigating the ship, looking for Scully, he comes across all of these other people, including Scully, encased in ice. So, what? That the governments of the world and the cigarette smoking man are injecting people with this type of virus and handing them over?
Probably part of the deal.
To the aliens who have this ship parked underneath the ice this whole fucking time?
The only thing that I really want to see in this film is the conversation between the aliens and the government that started this whole thing. And how did they come to this deal?
Yeah,
How did they talk? Yeah.
Because that's the thing. I'm just like, I get that the government would have to be secretive, because if any information got out to the aliens that they were doing a dodgy deal with an antivirus, yeah, they'd come over and fuck us up. But this film tells me they're already here. Anyway.
So, I really like the set though.
Yes.
And it's a lot of it is all green screen.
Yes.
And so, but it almost fits seamlessly. They used a lot of bits and pieces of set just to give you the perspective.
Yes.
But a lot of the scenes work really well. Some of it's a bit tropey, like, Mulder sliding down the thing almost to sudden death and hanging on and until he eventually finds Scully. And it's a great moment. You see all these sort of cocooned humans and Scully just, dead-eyed, just staring out at him.
Yeah, I was unsure if that was a prosthetic model of Gillian Anderson, and then they just swapped it at the end, or if that's how she was actually acting the whole way through the scene, because she's nude, and I would have loved to have seen that.
So he quickly rescues Scully, but there seems to have been some sort of reaction to the rest of the ship.
Yeah, well,
with the antivirus being put in here, it kind of fed through a tube and through the system. And I was like, maybe he's just infected the whole ship.
Yeah.
Maybe not. But it's enough to scare Smoking Man the hell away from this facility. He tells everyone to abandon their posts immediately.
Yeah.
And they all make their escape as we see, vents jetting off lots of steam and smoke and alarms are going off.
Yeah, because the ship has now gone into launch mode.
Well, at the same time, all of the other people that were cocooned up, the aliens start breaking free from them.
Yeah, they're because the heat changed and they're gestating a lot quicker, and that's what I mean. I'm like, right, oh, what?
So the way I see it is that the aliens break free from their human hosts, go and power up the ship, and decide it's time to fuck off.
But they couldn't have. The ship was already getting ready before we see that scene where they're all smashing out and stuff.
So there must have been aliens in that ship too then, that must have been in the,
Yeah, well, there
in
was...
the bridge.
Yeah, I mean, the ship is fucking massive. So they could be anywhere and everywhere. And I suppose once they had this breach, the aliens could have gone... and decided to launch off. But I lost the suspense at the end of this film, I have to say, because, and this was just me, because, I'm watching this fucking, 19 years after it's come out, I already know that they've gone, after this, they've already done another 4 seasons of X-Files, and they've also done a sequel movie. So for me, I'm watching Mulder and Scully race through the tunnels and escape from the aliens and running across the ice and trying to get away from the ship. And part of me is like, you're not going to die. I kind of know you're not going to die because... there would be no other X-Files. And at the same time, for me, they wouldn't have killed them off in this film because, well, like we said, it's a big... X-Files was a big money-making cash cow at this point. So killing off your 2 main stars, as much as the writers and Chris Carter and the actors would have loved to have just shut it off and done other things, this is what they were seen as.
For me, it's that moment for me where I'm just like, Mulder has been following and trying to find UFOs his entire life, and right now is one of the biggest motherfucking UFOs flying right over his head. I mean, he was just climbing around inside one.
Yeah.
And it makes me laugh because, Scully's passed out beside him, and he's like, Scully, look! Fucking look at that! She doesn't even bother looking. She's just like, oh, whatever, Mulder, whatever.
And then they get back to their meeting. They give their reports to Gwyneth Paltrow's mum, who we've seen 3 times in the film. And it builds up to what I can only imagine what it must have been like in the cinema when fans of the show saw this. It builds up to Mulder telling Scully, look, we can't keep doing this. We can't keep going back and forth. And Scully saying to him, look, I can't go back to my normal life. This is our life now. This is what we're going to do. And we follow the cigarette smoking man out in the desert, meeting up with one of the other elders at another secret military installation, and handing him a note. And on the note it says the X-Files have been reopened. And fans must have fucking shit. At that point, you didn't know. There might have been rumours, magazines out, but to actually see it on the big screen, that your favourite show that you've been watching constantly and have come to see this in the cinema on the big screen is coming back to TV again.
I also think it's interesting that, it's coming back for season 6, but David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson would spend quite a bit of time not working on that season, but coming back to work on reshoots for this film.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of episodes where they didn't get quite as much screen time as the earlier seasons.
Look. If I quit now, they win.
I got quite a few memorable moments from the film, like the opening with the cavemen,
Yeah.
and then with Lucas Black falling in the hole, and then the fireman going down there, and then the guy going, "Where's my men? Send you down in there too." And it's like everyone keeps going in that cave, and no one's coming back out.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a great setup. It had the horror moments, the suspense moments, the intrigue. Everything is just set up perfectly.
Yeah.
Being reintroduced to the 2 main characters, and then the bomb sequence, I was just like, what? After 20 minutes into the film, I was like, we've just had those 3 great moments. I'm now ready for the next hour and a half of the conspiracies and unraveling what's going on. But some of my favourite moments from the film come from scenes that have kind of been built up through the previous seasons of the TV show.
Yeah.
And that is the interactions and characterizations of Mulder and Scully.
Yeah.
The will they, won't they get together. It's kind of moonlighting this whole time. Because the sexual chemistry has been there since some of the earlier seasons. But the writers knew that the moment they got these characters together, interest in watching to see whether they would or wouldn't get together would just kind of wane a little bit, and a lot of interest would dissipate from kind of coming back each week to see if maybe they will.
Yeah.
We already know that they love each other and they'll do anything for each other, and this film just really cements that when they have those moments talking to each other where, you know, she explains that I want to go be a doctor, he explains that he would be nothing without her.
Yeah.
And, you know, yin and yang right there, they're just a great couple that just not happened, that's just not meant to be yet.
Yeah, not yet. Not until about season 7, 8.
Yeah, yeah.
My favourite scenes, I love, like with Gary, I love the opening sequence where Mulder and Scully are on the roof and Scully is doing her normal tirade at him of following protocol and doing everything by the book and, you know, we'll get in trouble if we don't do it this way and do it that way. And then Mulder's counter argument of, look, I've got to think outside the box. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. My other favourite scenes, I love the sequence where Mulder's pissing on the poster. You know, after that little bit at the bar, where the bar lady has asked him, you know, what do you do for a living? And he just goes on this massive rant about how he's the cornerstone of a government conspiracy and his sister was abducted and he's investigating the paranormal. And she's just like, that's enough drinks for you. And he goes outside and pisses on Independence Day poster. That was really fun. And Gillian Anderson, her oh shit face when the tankers go past. Her ankles whenever she comes out of those meetings. And maybe it's just me, but when she stood there looking all tidy, you know, in her suit and all that kind of stuff, she looks hot as fuck. But then when her hair is out of place and she's been pulled through the ringer and she's kind of looking all shocked as well, that's even hotter as well.
I definitely recommend The X-Files to X-Files fans. You know, it's a bit redundant. There's the fact that you've already probably seen it.
Yeah.
So if you are... This is, you know, I can only really now recommend this film to those of you that have never seen any X-Files and are kind of wondering where to begin other than Season 1, Episode 1.
Yeah.
If you're a bit dubious about starting at the beginning, start here. This is a great introduction to the characters, to the world that they inhabit, and the sort of things that they get up to. Tonally, it's very similar to the show. It's a great start point because once you watch this film, you can then go back and see how everything built up to this point.
Yeah.
Or you can then just go forward and see how some of these stories are concluded. And, you know, we're now going into seasons, 11 and seasons 12?
11, yeah.
You know, over the next couple of years. So it's just amazing that X-Files has been here for so long and it's now still ongoing. So, you know, if you've never seen any of the X-Files, it was a benchmark in television then.
Yeah.
It has waned slightly with some of the actors losing a little bit of interest, other characters being brought into the show, and it has changed. But it's still fundamentally the same. And so, you know, X-Files, for me, I've lost a little bit of interest in it over time. But this film is still enjoyable to watch for its entire 2 hours running time.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same. You know, if you're an X-Files fan, you've got the film, you know if you like it or don't like it. You probably already own the sequel movie as well, which for me is a bigger episode from the show.
It's definitely weaker than this film.
It is weaker, but you know, after going through all 10 seasons and this film, you finish with the sequel. You've done the whole arc for Mulder and Scully. It gets a bit confusing, the story in this movie, but that always happens with the X-Files. At the end of an episode or the film, the government have kind of covered everything up, and Mulder and Scully are going back to work. 2 major reasons to watch this film. David Duchovny, he's pretty badass. You know, he is pretty badass.
I bet I can guess your second one.
Oh yeah, fucking Gillian Anderson.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
You leave here unprotected, how far will you get? How far will they let you get? Because they'll know the minute you walk out of here.
What can we do? You can strip buyers naked,